What it do, everybody? It's your boy, King Crowder, checking back in with another edition of The Story We Need to Chime Into. Today's lesson will be on Robert Charles from Mississippi. Robert Charles was born in around the 19th century of the United States. The reason why Mrs. Charles' story was so prevalent because he actually sparked some of the labor disputes in New Orleans for Black Americans around this time. Robert Charles moved to New Orleans from Mississippi as a civil rights activist to seek jobs. Most people moved around that time to seek work and employment. Urbanization allowed those small town individuals to move to bigger cities to seek employment. Shipbuilding, different things, the ports that New Orleans offered that he could not find in the farm fields of Mississippi. The reason why Mr. Charles' ideology was so profound around this time is that when he moved to New Orleans, he saw a lot of the colorisms and the segregation going on so heavily. From where he was in Mississippi, he saw a lot more Black unity and understanding. So Mr. Charles' ideology was very prevalent. The reason why he was such a big deal and his story matters is because he actually started a labor dispute uprising in New Orleans. Robert Charles is a part of history that a lot of people do not know. Robert Charles actually started the white situation going on when he killed a lot of white people. When he started off at the beginning, Robert Charles shot and murdered a police officer for encroaching upon him. He tried to arrest him on some bogus charges, but Mr. Robert Charles went out shooting. And when he shot that police officer, all pandemonium was going all crazy. A large manhunt ensued for Mr. Charles, and Mr. Charles, being a hunter, living in a small town country and knowing how to survive, he was a self-educated person known for his discipline, self-defense, and the shooting. He actually shot several police officers and killed roughly 11 white people in the process. Mr. Charles was a rider, y'all. The story was so eerie because you see him being chased by a community of white militias and white activists about this time. But Mr. Charles was in a shootout, shooting them, killing them, hunting them down. One gentleman had the whole city of New Orleans in a frenzy. Robert Charles wanted to teach so much about self-defense and defending himself and not to bow down that his ideology was sort of like Nat Turner in a way. He went against those white issues and white battles that we had at this time. The reason why I found this issue so prevalent around this time is that stories like this we don't talk about enough, but I think it's definitely important. The reason how they got Mr. Charles is when he was shooting and hunting and going from the people, he actually made the mistake of running into a building. What the white people did was actually threw some smoke in the building, allowed Mr. Charles to, what kills you in a fire and trying to burn something down is a smoke insulation in your lungs. So as he was in the building getting smoked out, they actually shot roughly 1,000 bullets for this one man who was putting in that much work. Robert Charles was killed that day, but the stories still were profound that said, oh, I'm not going to lay down. You're not going to treat me any type of way. And the mentality that sparked some of the civil rights movement actually came from Mr. Charles. The reason why this incident was so profound because this is around the time when Plessy v. Ferguson laws came into play. And that's when you began to see New Orleans begin to separate a lot because around those times, remember in New Orleans, blacks and whites rode the cars together, no problem. So state by state, the laws were so very different. And when he being in Mississippi, he had a hard time differentiating those laws coming to a new place. History needs to place a spotlight on this gentleman because he was a rider. He was a freedom fighter. And one thing he did was shook America to its core that we may have a problem on our hands that we got to deal with as far as race relations and how the uprisings can start to spur and begin. Mr. Charles' ideology was really strong around this time, y'all, and it's still pervasive to this day. It actually had a lot of strongholds in the civil rights movement that you're going to treat me fair or it's not going to be no laws at all. This your boy King Crowder. Check it out again about a history lesson about our boy, a rider, Mr. Robert Charles. Please subscribe to the channel, comment, like, and I hope you guys get back with me as soon as possible. Peace.